You're listening to Sustainably Geeky, the podcast for everyday environmentalists.
Hi, and welcome to Sustainably Geeky. I'm your host, Jennifer, and this is a bonus episode, number 22. It's just me today on the show. Our normal crew isn't here. I am actually going to be talking about a trip I took early March of 2020 to the Living Lands and Waters Alternative Spring Break. And for those of you that listen to the show, you may remember we interviewed the founder of that organization, Chad Pregracke, back in December of 2019. You can listen to that interview on episode 18. And that's where we kind of talked to Chad about the organization, how it got started, and the work that they do, the importance of water quality and waterways in our, natural environment. So after that interview, Chad extended an invitation for me to come check out their alternative spring break program in Memphis in March, and I took him up on it. I picked the first week of the alternative spring break program, which is normally 3 weeks, and I was only able to come out for a couple days, but it turns out that was the absolute best week to pick because they had to unfortunately cancel the rest of the spring break trips due to the COVID-19 outbreak and folks not being able to travel, and then the shelter-in-place orders that went into effect. So I was really sad to hear that they had to cancel the last 2 weeks of the program, but I know that the week that I was there and the folks that were there volunteering did a lot of great work, and I'm really happy that we were able to at least do some cleaning up while we were there and make a difference along the river for that short amount of time. So I have to say this was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. I got to go and not only participate myself in this amazing opportunity to clean our natural world, but I also got to see dozens of students out there cleaning and busting their butt, doing physically demanding work in sometimes, not the best weather, but doing it with a smile on their face and knowing that we're all making a difference and we're all coming together to do this great big project. And it was very encouraging to see folks that came from all over the country to clean this little strip of the Mississippi River. And everyone was just so welcoming and encouraging in everything that I did. So I really appreciate the hospitality of the Living Lands and Waters crew and the energy that they brought. This is definitely an organization that practices what it preaches. They don't just go out there and clean up the river and then go home and use disposable items or not recycle. I mean, they are using reusable plates and silverware and then washing it all on the barge. They are repurposing things when they can. Everything that they collect gets sorted and recycled, and we'll hear a little bit more about that later. So again, it was just really cool to see them trying not just to clean up the rivers, but trying to do things to prevent the trash from getting there in the first place. So I'm excited to share with you guys some of the interviews I did while I was out in Memphis. And I apologize in advance if some of the audio is a little hard to hear or a little uneven. We were outside a lot in the thick of things, so there was a lot happening. There was some wind blowing, but I think you'll see that it kind of just adds to the experience, and I hope that you enjoy hearing from the folks that I got to meet while I was there. The first person I want to introduce is Chad Pregracke, of course, the founder of Living Lands and Waters. And we got to talk to him in episode 18 about how the organization got started and why. So now I'm really talking more about the Alternative Spring Break program and how folks can get involved in the organization. So Chad, kind of tell us what's happening this week and the next 2 weeks, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we're hosting Alternative Spring Break, which is focused for college students for the 3 weeks in March. And each week we have roughly, between, I think 1 week we have 60 students and 80 students and 100 students. So, and they're out here helping us in McKellar Lake, which is a backwater of the Mississippi River. We're moving tons of garbage, mainly plastic bottles. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, for instance, with a group of about 100 from 4 different universities, we were able to do about 17,000 pounds in about 7 hours. So
Wow.
it's a very noticeable difference. So it's kind of rewarding, but it's also pretty disgusting, as far as like, there's just a lot of trash.
Yeah, and you have that times 3 weeks, 5 days a week, 3 weeks. So that adds up pretty quick. And what do you guys do with all this trash once you pick it up?
So we put it on barges and we sort it out based on what it is. And, like tires on one barge and the batteries and propane tanks in a different spot. And hard plastics over here. And then, but the bags, that majority of what we're picking up today will then be sorted out with large groups. And we tear the bags back open and we sort everything out, the whole barge. So that, in some years we've done it like in 2 or 3 hours. We've been able to sort everything out. So all the plastic bottles are sorted out, and then we have a thing with John Deere. We're going to be able to work with them and actually, it's going into a gator part, like a John Deere gator on the side. So they just did their first prototype. So pretty cool stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
With the bottles, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That'll be neat to see. I've been helping pick up trash, and then yesterday I was doing the trash boat, which is the boat that goes around and picks the trash up after everyone collects it, and that's some hard work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of slinging and throwing and lifting, but it was really rewarding to see these, big old boatfuls of trash just dumped back on the barge, and then knowing that it's going to be kind of put where it needs to go instead of back in our river. So
yeah, no, it's that's one of the most rewarding jobs out here, actually.
Yeah.
Just because, you're seeing instant results. You're going in and picking up piles, and then the boat is it's taller than you, the boatload of garbage. So.
Yeah. So what made you guys think to start this alternative spring break program?
It was actually just by kind of accident. I was I do a lot of speaking at different colleges around the country, and a lot of these actually that are here I've spoke to in the past, and that's how they got introduced to us. Cool. So I was at a Baptist school about an hour south of Atlanta, probably 12 years ago or more, and I just, at the end of my talk, I just was like, hey, if anybody wants to come and help out, I can use all the help I can get.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, they rolled in 2 vans to Owensboro, Kentucky, where the barge was, and it was amazing, like how much enthusiasm they brought, but also like just how much we got done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a cleanup where it was just like 3 or 4 hours. It was like, for 4 days, 8 hours a day, and the difference we made, and just a bunch of things. I thought, if this worked for one school, this will work for a lot of different schools in different places. So I just started mentioning it wherever I went and spoke, and then we have a marketing person that helps us get the word out about what we do, and so they help too, and it's one of our most successful programs.
Yeah, so now you have a formal process where they just contact you through the website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, I want to bring my kids out for these 3 weeks, or one of these 3 weeks, and then once they get that situated, you guys kind of set up the hotel and the logistics as far as where to be and food and everything, right?
Yeah, no, and it's cool to see people have come from Texas, California, Memphis right here, all over New York, Florida, you name it. Just it's really cool, and honestly, as I said to the students this morning, it really is uplifting for us to work side by side with them, because the enthusiasm they carry and positivity, and they're they truly are the future.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you're keeping these waters clean for them and their kids and their kids' kids, so that's pretty awesome. I think they see the tangible feed, or
And the students that choose to come and do something bigger than themselves, that's just good people to be around. But like, I was working with a couple of Texas A&M students yesterday, and I think 2 of them are biomedical engineering, chemical engineers. That's what they're going into, PhDs, and they might be the next people to help solve this problem of trash, and being exposed to this might help them sort of focus in on something. You just never know.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about what we do. We can see the tangible results, and then you don't get to see the real results sometimes, as far as the impact you're making beyond the actual physical.
That's a good point. A lot of times people are so focused on the here and now, but you guys have a really long-term view of everything, and even, you know, beyond just picking up trash, you're kind of teaching these kids after the fact. You're sitting down with them, you're giving them lessons, you're explaining, you know, why things are important and showing them, leading by example. So I think that's awesome that you're going that extra, you know, mile and really educating, not just, okay, we're picking up trash and that's it. So
no, that's kind of just you know, it's all encompassing, and it takes everything to make a big change. And
yeah,
that's really, I didn't start out with a grand plan, but now it is about making the change and sustaining the change. And you know, it's podcasts like this. It's, you know, we're working the last few days with the National Geographic film crew, and that they're helping get the word out. I mean, that's how movements happen.
Yeah.
Nowadays. So
yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And you're always looking for sponsors and volunteers, right? So people are interested in getting involved. It's livinglandsandwaters.org.
Yep.
And anything else you want to plug while we're talking, or?
No, just if anybody's interested in spring break, let us know, and
all right.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can attest to that. So thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Chad has so much energy and was such a delight to talk to. It was really inspiring to see, you know, how he came from being a one-man operation and now has this industrial strength river cleanup facility. And everyone involved in the organization, whether volunteers, staff, or just, you know, supporters of their work, is so enthusiastic. So if you want to learn more about Chad's story and how he came to start Living Lands and Waters, you can check out his book, From the Bottom Up, by Chad Pregracke, of course, and learn more about how he came to do what he's doing. So now I want to transition to some interviews I did with some of the volunteers and staff that were at the Alternative Spring Break. I got to talk to several students from Monmouth College in Illinois, and I have to say that they really gave me hope for our future. They're so passionate about helping the world and about these river cleanups. So it was really inspiring for me, and I hope that you find the same.
I have Amanda, Maddie, Mason, Alex, and Liam. So thank you guys for talking to me today. Okay, I know we have a few people that have been here several times. So tell me how many times you guys have all done this.
I've been here 2 years.
This is my second time. This is my third year.
This is my second time. This is my first time.
Okay, so we have a lot of returning veterans here. Obviously, coming back means that you enjoyed it, or you at least got something out of it. So can you guys kind of tell me, you know, what made you sign up in the first place, and then why you decided to come back?
Where do you start? So we are in a leadership organization called Stockton Fellows. And one thing that we really don't get to do a lot on campus is use the things that we learn in this organization in like normal day-to-day activities. So taking a trip like this on spring break where we have just a week where we can practice these skills that we've learned and stuff, it really makes us develop as leaders and helps us to develop those skills so we can use them more efficiently and more effectively in the future.
Awesome. Real world application. Yeah. So awesome. Anybody else?
I was just going to say the reason why I came back was just really eye-opening to see on the impact. I mean, what we're doing, it doesn't seem like much, but every little bit counts. And I mean, I just came back because I like to try to do somewhat of a difference, and this is a good step. I don't really get much time in the school year to do anything, so my spring break is my chance to get back and just have, and even though it's giving back, it's still a little me time, and it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Besides what the two boys saw already, I also think that not only do we get to like practice like the things that we learn in our group and to like give back and actually be part of like the experience, but I think you also get a lot out of it. It's like we got a lot closer like with our friends. We got to like experience people who actually like took their dream, went out and like made it into a real thing in the world. So I think that's really inspiring, especially for people our age.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Anybody else have anything to add? Or
we get to meet a lot of new people from other schools too, which is really nice. Like coming from a smaller school, we don't get to meet a lot of bigger school students, so it's nice to get a little bit more exposure to other people as well.
For sure, yeah. Anything else?
I mean, it's my first time, but I talked to all of them, and they don't, like, it doesn't feel like it's work. It feels like, not work, but it doesn't feel like we're doing things. Like, it feels like we're hanging out with friends, and at the end of it, you're like, wow, I did something that's, like, effective at the end.
Yeah. So tell me about this group that you're a part of. I'm assuming that's kind of, y'all are all in the same group. What does the group do that you were saying you don't get to really apply as much, I guess?
Well, technically, we're a scholarship, leadership, and service group. So the three things that we try to focus on the most. Obviously, we apply scholarship because we're in college, so we have to. But then we take like the leadership things that we learn, and we can apply them a little bit to campus. But like coming to things like this, you can apply it to like a bigger, on a bigger scale, and like you get to see how like these things that we learn actually like affect other people, not just the people we're with every day.
Yeah, cool. And I know you guys have a lot of options for things you can do on spring break. Go home, go party, as Chad said. There's a lot of things that college students typically do, but coming to, spend a week with complete strangers other than yourself to clean up a river is a pretty cool thing. So I commend you guys for that. That's pretty awesome. I think he said that we did 17,000 pounds just yesterday, one day. That's incredible, but it's like, oh my God, that they're going to be here for 3 weeks. So, that's just insane that it keeps coming back every year. So how do you guys, what has this done to kind of change your outlook on, the way you consume things or the way you just live your life? Because obviously you're seeing the trash that, you probably have thrown similar stuff away every day.
Beforehand, I was always like stickler about when people litter, but now, especially coming back, it's really sets into my mind. Like if I see people littering, like of course I'm gonna get at them. I'm a little bit more conscious when it comes to purchasing stuff like that. So I just always try to make sure I'm throwing my trash away, I'm putting it where it needs to go, and same for the people around me.
Yeah, I think it's crazy how much like we have picked up in like the 17,000 pounds or whatever, and you still see it all over the beaches and in the trees and stuff, and like even in the places we go, and he'll be like, okay, it's time to get in the boat, there's still a bunch everywhere.
You're like, I don't want to leave, there's too much.
And like, I mean, personally, my family doesn't let us have water bottles in the house. Like that was my dad's thing. He was like, no water bottles anymore. And I think like, I don't know, I mean, one family can do it, but I think everyone needs to like figure that out too.
Yeah, a lot of water bottles, a lot of like styrofoam plate bits and cups, and
it shows like where the industrial America has to move to, so we can start being more environmentally conscious, moving away from the styrofoam and plastics to more of the reusable things. Will make it a lot better for the environment.
Did you? Oh, go ahead.
Majority of the stuff is just single-use plastics. Like you use it one time, and then after that, that's its lifetime.
Yeah.
And the styrofoam doesn't break down either. Like it breaks into small pieces, and that's it's kind of hard for us to pick up too. So
it's labor intensive. Yeah, I read a statistic once that said every piece of plastic ever made still exists, which is pretty like awful when you think about it, but it puts it in perspective. So we use something, the average lifespan of a spoon or a straw is like a few minutes, and if it's around forever, we don't use it very long. So I think, So how do you guys think we get people to kind of, other than coming to do a few days of a cleanup on a river like this, to kind of see the importance? Because before this, you may not have even known that the problem was this big, or what do you guys think is this part of the solution here?
I think it's people, like if you can't come to one of these yourself, for like us to go back and to talk to like people at our school, then like it's just like a chain reaction. And also for things like this podcast, like Matt Geo doing like stuff on like exposure and experience and teaching.
Absolutely.
I also think it's not just like telling people, but like showing pictures, because in my brain, like when you guys were talking about it, I like had no idea how bad it actually is until I saw it.
Yeah.
So at least it helps nowadays with technology that like with Snapchat, like I will post on my story and like showing, and like just how many people will sign up, like holy crap, like that's crazy on how much that is. And it's like that, at least it helps that nowadays we can easily show pictures, show videos, and kind of get more of a spread on showing.
If we each kind of share in our network, it grows a little bit. Yeah, I think so. Cool. Well, anything else you guys want to add about this week or this experience, like what you've gotten from it or how you feel about it? Maybe encourage other people to come do it sometime.
When I first came here my freshman year, and I'm a junior now, I did not think I would enjoy it at all. At all. This is my third year coming back, and it's one of the most self-fulfilling experiences I've had in my college experience in my life.
It's awesome.
So, like, if you're listening to this, just come out and really experience this. It's changing.
Do something, like it doesn't have to be as like what we're doing coming down to Memphis or coming out anywhere. Just do something, even in your town, in your house. Just one thing. If you can do one thing, and everyone just does one thing that they can change. change about like their lifestyle and like how they do it, what they're doing. It's going to make a difference. It's going to do something.
Walking outside and see a water bottle, pick it up, in the trash can, just let it blow into the river.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great tips, and we really appreciate you guys being here, and continue doing good things in the world.
So as you can see, these students really have their priorities in line, and I think they've got a really bright future ahead of them. This was just a sampling of the almost 100 students that participated in the week that I was there. And of course, normally this impact would be tripled because the alternative spring break program would go for 3 weeks out of the year, and like it has in previous years. So you can really see how over time this program has made a big difference in the world. And before I move on with the rest of our interviews, I do want to give a shout out to Olive Branch High School. Had a river cleanup the Saturday before the alternative spring break cleanup started, and I actually got to participate with them. They came out first thing on a Saturday morning and picked up a lot of trash along the river, and it was just a lot of fun and again, very inspiring to see these kids out there giving up a Saturday to help the community. They've been doing this for years, so kudos to you guys, and I hope that you continue serving the community and doing great things into the future. My next interview was with Evan Clark, and he is a boat driver for Living Lands and Waters who comes down seasonally, usually for their alternative spring break. He's also a self-proclaimed river rat. And Evan was a wealth of knowledge about the river cleanups, and just sustainability in general. I really enjoyed talking with him and getting to know him over the course of the time that I was in Memphis. So here is our interview.
So Evan, kind of tell us what you do for them and how you got involved with the organization, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a river rat, is how that happened. I think I first met Chad in, I want to say maybe 99 or 2000 when me and some buddies built boats and we're going down the Mississippi River. And we've been hearing about Chad for a little while before I ran across them, and we're super inspired. These people have been figured out how to, not only make a living on the river, but, to do really good work out there, and, just being boat nerds as well. We were super jealous of all their sweet boats. And I think we volunteered with them the first time. And just hung out. Then I ran into a couple more times on subsequent river trips, and I just kind of knew that he was out there for a long time, but just in the last couple of years reconnected, and just went out to visit a couple of times, volunteered a couple of days, and then started to get called in on these alternative spring break cleanups.
So it sounds like Chad was kind of a legend, in the circles that you run in, and is that, just kind of because of the work he was doing, or his personality, or both? Because it seems like he's got a very magnetic personality, and people just love kind of working with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was really just, I think the thing that drew me, and made us know about them early was just that they're river people doing river stuff. He's died in the mud, river rat, and so anything that had to do with people, doing things other than, only just working on towboats. And, it's still pretty rare that people are commercial fishermen, and then, to do really cool work like river cleanup was just dreamy. So I was like, oh yeah, what are they doing? Who are they?
Yeah.
And just sweethearts and badasses. So, yeah.
So, talk about kind of, I guess, your role with the alternative spring break. What do you do, and what makes you keep coming back for more?
All right, because I can't get enough. Let's see. Well, I trailer my boat down, and I guess that's beginning of March for 3 weeks. I have a heavy duty John boat, pretty similar to what they use, and they hire me on to mostly run a garbage boat for them. They have their boats in their organization taking out the volunteers to do cleanup along the riverbanks. and then I shuttle my boat around and pick up all the bag piles and get them back to the barges and do whatever other little odd jobs pop up that they need a hired gun for. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is hard work. I mean, I've been riding in the garbage boat with Evan all day today, and we probably chunked 300 bags of trash over the course of the day. Some of those multiple times.
Yeah.
We had to offload and unload a few times, but
I mean, everything's multiple times really,
Yeah.
because we're loading everything into the boat, and you know, 3 people are handling each bag going
Yeah.
into the boat and going back out again. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the process. You already said, the students pick it up,
Mhm.
and then you go around with your boat and haul it to the barge, and then once it's on the barge, it gets put in another part of the boat, or correct?
Yeah, like tomorrow morning, so we filled up that barge halfway today, with bags are pretty much full because we couldn't toss any more bags over the pile we made. But, so it's technically full. So tomorrow morning they'll get, some portion of the 100 kids that they have out here this week to hang out and kind of make it a human chain, and we'll handle all those bags all over again and load them out to the other barge back into the trash cage.
Yeah.
And that'll take a couple of hours to clear off the barge, and so we're ready to flip more bags on it tomorrow.
We were talking a little bit earlier about sustainability and why it's important to you personally. What are your thoughts on this, and what do you hope to, if you could share a message with our listeners, kind of, what's your hope for the future, and how people kind of change their outlook on sustainable living?
Yeah, I think about all that a lot, and I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of fit it into a format that won't take 3 hours, because living and working in this world like I do, I have a lot of different thoughts, and I guess on the big picture, I think we were talking about it the other day, some of the things that I'd really like to see, and that I really hope that I'm effectively working towards is hopefully just trying to slow shit down a little bit, and so we as a society, and I can only talk about this Western world that I live in, but can get a second to start to be able to be less stressed and think about and be able to think about longer term gains. I mean, it's really obvious that and all the numbers bear it out that folks who are doing well, who make a lot of money, are the biggest recyclers and the best long term thinkers. And if you're caught up in a really terrible cycle of poverty, you end up having to make a lot of decisions that I've lived them too, and I've called them poor people decisions that you make when you when you're just under a lot of stress and can't necessarily plan and think about the long term as best as possible. I guess that's my big level thinking on it. And I guess on the small level, just, my own life and where it comes into play is I'm just a tinkerer. And it's a great influential force, to bring into, things, when you're thinking about things at a larger level is, how can you kind of adjust, the way you do things and think about things or act in things, or which things, which decisions you make can actually have the deepest effects on people. And I'm going to throw in 1/3, 1/2 to keep it under 3 hours, which is, I think taking people out on the river, which I do up in Pittsburgh, with 2 of my jobs up there and out here, my biggest hope is that, as this work relates to rivers, that I can, just show and share a little bit of my love for rivers, and, that, can maybe build the thing in people that causes them to become, a little bit better stewards of the world that they live in, because they have that love for these, still wild and natural and beautiful places.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. I love all of it.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, inspire other people and lead by example. And it's very true what you said. A lot of these issues kind of stem back to economics, right? Like, people do what they can, but if they don't know any better or they can't afford any better, that kind of perpetuates the cycle. So we need to kind of look at this on a macro level from, why are people making these decisions? Why are they not able or willing to do some of the things that we think need to be done? So
yeah, how do you kind of cause some of those, or shed some light on those cultural shifts that we hope to be able to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for talking to me. Do you want to plug your organization one more time and kind of tell folks where they can find you online and, support your group if they're so interested?
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's ever up in Pittsburgh and wants to come do river cleanup with us up there, I work with Allegheny Cleanways, and you can find us at AlleghenyCleanways.org. And what we do is a river cleanup is called Tireless Project on that website. And, we're always looking for volunteers, spring, summer, fall. And then,
Cool.
Yeah, come on out, hang out on the river.
You guys are on all the social media, I take it?
I think we're on the Instagram and probably the Facebook, but that's what I'm not as close to. But yeah, and then just the worldwide interweb. So.
Cool.
So definitely check out Allegheny Cleanways, and if you are interested in getting involved with river cleanups where you live, check to see if there's a similar organization near you. If not, then Living Lands and Waters offers free resources and supplies to local organizations and individuals interested in starting their own river cleanups. And here's their marketing director with more information on that and other ways you can get involved with their organization.
Great. I've got Leah Caffarelli here. And Leah, what is your title for Living Lands and Waters?
I am our marketing manager and a program coordinator.
Okay. So what does that mean exactly? What do you do for the group?
So I take care of all the marketing, media, web, graphic design, kind of a one-man show here since we're a smaller crew, which is half my role, or even just kind of a part of what I do here, the small portion. And then I run our alternative spring break program, which we're working on right now. And then along with that, since we're such a small crew, we get our hands in, everyone gets their hands in all the pots. So I'm a deckhand, and I go out on river cleanups, and I help out with events, and live on the barge, most of the year.
Yeah. I met Leah on Saturday, which was her birthday, and we're doing a cleanup with the high school kids. That was actually the first one of the year, right?
Yeah.
So I got to see her in action, and she definitely wears a lot of hats in addition to the marketing, and everyone on the crew really just jumps in everywhere. So it was pretty awesome to see. So you're the person that if anyone's ever contacted, through Facebook or email, that probably talk to them, right?
Yep. Yes, I handle all the correspondence through there.
Awesome. So she is the one that you want to talk to if you're interested in getting involved with the organization or getting your group involved in a cleanup. And can you talk a little bit about how people can do that, whether it's through this alternative spring break or, I know you guys do a lot of cleanups throughout the year with other groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we work in a lot of different areas since our, house and operation is really mobile. So it kind of just go off of where you're at and what you want to do. So, if we're coming to your area sometime throughout the year, obviously you can come out for a river cleanup. We do community cleanups like Thursday through Saturday during our cleanup season, which is March to, we kind of shut it down with volunteers around November since it gets pretty cold. We also do educational workshops out on the barge and then in the Quad Cities. So this year we'll be on the Illinois River primarily. But then, we get a lot of people in other parts of the country where we can't really get to. And everyone can help out. We have our Adopt a River Mile program. So that's where we kind of sponsor your cleanups. So we gear you up with gloves and bags and some guidance and tips and even like a metal marker sign. It kind of goes along with like Adopt a Highway. Awesome. So anyone can get out there and clean up and host their own cleanup if they find, a problematic area. We have a similar program on the Mississippi River, which is the Great Mississippi River Cleanup that we have. And yeah, we also have a Million Trees project in our invasive species removal projects, and those are more Quad City based. So Illinois.
Awesome. So there are a lot of ways to get involved, obviously, and it sounds like whether it's a few individuals or a big group of people, you guys have figured out a way to give people an opportunity to help clean America's waterways, which is your mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And does this cost money if groups want to do this? Like, how is this all funded?
So it doesn't cost money for anyone to come and volunteer with us, but it does, donations and corporate sponsorships are what powers our organization. So luckily a lot of our sponsors, because we're primarily run on corporate sponsorships. And then, that kind of gears our schedule to what we do throughout the year and where we go. So like one of our bigger sponsors are Procter & Gamble over in Cincinnati. And so each year we, bring our fleet over to Cincinnati and do a large scale cleanup with them.
And that's with their staff?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, with their staff over at their headquarters.
Yeah, so they're not only giving money, but they're also giving time. And
they give a lot of volunteer power. Anheuser-Busch is another one. They've given us so many, volunteers, and John Deere, which is more towards our home base in East Moline. We always work with John Deere. They are always helping us at like our restoration projects over there. So yeah, whether you're giving money or not, we want to work with you, but it is, that's what drives us is sponsorships and
this donating. Stuff, I mean, it costs money obviously to run a barge, to feed everybody. And you're feeding all the volunteers, for this spring break for 3 weeks, and the crew. Yeah. You're feeding, or you're having to get fuel and pay the employees and the folks that are coming out from out of town to run the boats and everything. So obviously, you make it as cost effective for people to join you. But if there's anyone out there that wants to help with donations, or you have a connection, you're always looking for more.
Yeah,
because then you can do more with it.
Right. And it's, our cleanup is industrial strength is what we call it. And it's one of the only industrial strength river cleanups. So, to move our barge somewhere, costs a lot of money. And even in-kind donations are huge for us. So when our barge donors, donate their captains, or they move our barges for us for free, the in-kind donations are, huge too.
That's a pretty cool, network that you guys have built in the last, 20 years?
Yeah.
I mean, not just your sponsors, but the fact that they are working, with you, giving you that labor or whatever, the equipment. I mean, you guys have 3 barges now, 5 barges, and an excavator on one of them, and several boats. All of that stuff adds up, and I know a lot of that was kind of gifted to you guys, but a lot of it was purchased with funds that you got donated as well. So, that's a really incredible, just relationship building. Has that been kind of mostly Chad or a lot of the different people on the crew? How has that kind of started?
I would say, Chad is always on the front lines, and he has such a positive and outgoing, personality. I feel like you'd agree with me.
Yeah, definitely.
He is just high energy and fun, and, the message that he spreads and the lessons that he teaches everyone is huge. So yeah, a lot of the relationships were built by Chad. You know, he started this when he was in his early 20s, building relationships with sponsors. But everyone on the crew is wonderful, and you know, our operations manager JB is always working with the different barge companies and mechanics, and Rachel and Mike are always working with different educators and other nonprofits. So we all work together to, you know, make the operation what it is, but Chad's work is huge, and it takes a special kind of person to run this kind of organization, I'd say.
Yeah, this guy we were talking earlier, he doesn't sleep, I don't think. He does these cleanups all day, and then he, you know, in his free time, if he has any, or at night, he's reading emails, he's calling people back, he's working connections, and just constantly thinking of new ways, I think, to expand this operation, which is incredible. So really applaud you guys and the work you're doing, and I you know, have had so much fun the last few days. If people want to get involved or find you guys online, where can they find you?
They can find us, our website is livinglandsandwaters.org. I'll say that slower. livinglandsandwaters.org. And then we're on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Living Lands and Waters, Facebook, Twitter. But yeah, you know, another big help for us is people just kind of spreading the word, sharing our message. The more people that know we're out here doing what we do, the more it will drive us to have volunteers and sponsorships and just the help that we need. So we always say that's just another way, a huge way to help us is just by sharing our social media posts, which sounds silly, but it does a lot of good.
Right. Yeah, those algorithms are brutal, man.
I'd say,
yeah. And donate if you can donate, you know, anything, few bucks, all the way to, if you have an old boat or, you know, somebody that is able to kind of work those connections right.
Yeah.
Always looking for more sponsors. So,
and if you're a towboat pilot or can run a boat, we'd love to work with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you,
Appreciate
Jennifer.
you.
We had such a great time with you.
Thanks.
Leah was so awesome to answer all of my questions, not just for this interview, but throughout the time that I was there. And she and all of the rest of the crew were just some of the most hardworking and genuine folks you'll ever meet. So I really want to thank them for their hospitality and for inspiring me to continue the work that I'm doing and try to do even more to inspire others to live a more sustainable lifestyle and really think about the everyday items that they use and how they are disposed of. What was really striking to me on this trip was seeing so many things that end up in the waterways that, yes, some of it could have been just outright pollution, people throwing things on the ground or in the water, but the majority of the items were just things that people threw in the trash or recycling that got blown away, or maybe items that got washed up in flooding or some other way. So really, the problem with the trash in the rivers and in our environment in general isn't necessarily that people are being careless about just tossing stuff out. It's more about the fact that we're using items that are so easily transported away and accumulated in these areas, like where we were picking up trash. So it really, to me, drove home the idea that we need to be reducing the amount of plastic that we use, the amount of styrofoam, because that is the majority of the items that we saw. And like the college students said, they break down into these tiny little pieces, these microplastics that are almost impossible to collect. And those obviously end up, just staying in the water or in the dirt and then getting ingested by animals, sometimes by humans. It's this vicious cycle that we could avoid if we just stopped using these items altogether. And kudos to Living Lands and Waters, because in all of their education outreach with these students as well as others in the community, they really drive home the point that using single-use plastic and other throwaway items is really crippling our environment, and it's just not sustainable. And I think I mentioned earlier in the show, but the organization actually, when they fed all of these students, they fed them all on reusable plates, reusable silverware, cups. So all of that stuff got rewashed. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a priority and they make time for it. And I was very, very impressed that they went to such great lengths to model the behavior that they were teaching these students and doing their part to divert disposables from the waste stream. Because honestly, they probably knew that if they used disposables, they might end up having to pick them up either that year or the next year. So they were just creating more work for themselves in the long run. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the barge itself. Really cool setup, like we've mentioned. It was about 5 different barges all hooked together, and they had everything kind of sectioned off. There's one that has their houseboat where the crew actually lives, and they have a classroom and a kitchen. So everybody that volunteers kind of comes through there, and it's a really cool setup, very intimate. And everywhere you looked on the barge, you could find collections of the different items that they had found. So there were murals made of bottle caps and straws. There was an entire wall of the little toys that they had found. What was most interesting and disturbing at the same time for me was the baby doll wall that had the collection of all of the baby dolls that they found on cleanups, and some of them have had a pretty rough life. But, if you want to adopt a baby doll, they also have a really great video on their Facebook page that lets you see some of the dolls and adopt one if you're so inclined. It's very compelling and just one of the many things that make the barge so eclectic. There were also stickers and signs from all the different places they've been, and it was just a really, really cool atmosphere everywhere you went. A lot of industrial equipment too, of course, and then the John boats that transport all the volunteers to the different pickup sites and to and from the shore are attached to the side of the larger barge. So, like I said, really cool setup. Kind of difficult to explain unless you can see it. Everything seemed to run like a well-oiled machine, at least from what I can see. So if you're interested in seeing pictures of barge or the trash pickup, the trash boat, the trash pile, any of it, those photos are all posted to the Sustainably Geeky Facebook page, as well as epicallygeeky.com/sustainably-geeky. I'm so grateful I got to have this experience and to share it with all of you. I hope you've learned something, and I hope that maybe you've been inspired to get involved either with this organization or with another one locally, or to even start your own river or local environmental cleanup of some kind. If you would like more information about Living Lands and Waters, of course, you can visit livinglandsandwaters.org or check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And this show, Sustainably Geeky, is available wherever you listen to podcasts, so please subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a 5-star rating, a like, a thumbs up, whatever the method of showing your affection is on your particular method of listening to podcasts. It really does help us out. And of course, please share us with your friends if you like the show. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sustainably Geeky. You can find me on all of the social media sites at Het's Gonna Be Me. You can also hear me on our sister podcast, Creatively Geeky, Marginally Geeky, and Epically Geeky, which is our parent show. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day.
This has been a presentation of the Epically Geeky Network.